I sat beside my 8-year-old son Tyler's hospital bed in the ICU. He had been unconscious for 36 hours after a fall at my mother's house. Machines beeped steadily around us. Purple and yellow bruises covered his small body. My phone rang. "Mom," I answered, hoping she was finally calling to check on him. Instead, her voice was cheerful and demanding. "Tomorrow is your sister Amanda's birthday party. I need you here by 9 to help set up the tent." My throat tightened. "Mom, Tyler is in the ICU. I can't leave him." Her voice turned cold as winter. "If you don't come, I'll cut you off completely." I hung up. Deleted her number. I stared at my phone, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it onto the sterile hospital floor. The screen went dark, reflecting my pale, exhausted face back at me. I could not believe what had just happened. My son was fighting for his life, and my mother was concerned about party decorations. The past 36 hours replayed in my mind like a nightmare I could not wake from. I had been working a double shift at the medical clinic where I worked as a physician assistant. We were understaffed, and I needed the overtime pay. My mother had insisted on watching Tyler, practically demanding it when I mentioned needing a sitter. She had said she wanted to spend quality time with her grandson. I should have known better. I should have trusted my instincts. When I arrived at her house to pick him up that night, something felt wrong the moment I stepped through the door. The house was too quiet. I called out for Tyler. No answer. I found my mother in the living room, flipping through a magazine about event planning. She barely looked up when I asked where Tyler was. "Oh, he's downstairs," she said casually, like she was telling me the weather forecast. "Downstairs? In the basement? Mom, he's 8. Why would he be down there alone?" She waved her hand dismissively. "He wanted a snack. I told him to get a popsicle from the freezer down there." I felt ice flood my veins. Her basement stairs were steep concrete steps, nearly vertical, with a single weak bulb for lighting. I ran to the basement door and found it closed. When I opened it and flicked the switch, nothing happened. The bulb was out. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and rushed down those stairs. Tyler was crumpled at the bottom, unconscious, blood pooling under his head. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and prayers. The emergency room doctors used words like severe concussion, fractured ribs, internal bleeding, possible organ damage. They rushed him into emergency surgery. When he came out, they moved him to the ICU. He had not woken up since. The door to Tyler's room opened, pulling me from the dark spiral of my thoughts. My husband Craig walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee from the hospital cafeteria. His eyes were bloodshot, his face unshaven. He worked construction, building homes and commercial buildings around the city. He had immediately taken time off when I called him from the hospital. His boss was understanding, but we both knew every day Craig missed was money we desperately needed. "Any change?" Craig asked, handing me a coffee. I shook my head. "Vitals are stable, but he's still unconscious." Craig sank into the chair beside me, and I told him about my mother's phone call. I watched his face go from confusion to disbelief to pure rage. "She wants you at a birthday party? While Tyler is here? While our son could." He could not finish the sentence. Neither could I. "That's exactly what she wants," I said, my voice hollow. She made it clear. "Amanda's party is tomorrow. I need to be there by 9. If I don't show up, she's cutting me off." Craig knew what that meant. My father had passed away 4 years ago from a sudden heart attack. He had been a successful businessman, and he left behind a substantial inheritance. My mother controlled everything. She had always dangled that money over my head like a carrot on a stick, using it to manipulate my choices, my time, my life. "Your family has always treated you like the help," Craig said, gripping his coffee cup so tightly I thought it might crack. "Like you exist to serve them. But this is beyond anything I imagined." He was right. Growing up, I had always been second to Amanda. My older sister was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She got the college fund that paid for 4 years at a private university. I got community college and student loans. She got a lavish wedding with 300 guests at a country club. I got a small ceremony in Craig's parents' backyard. She got a down payment for a house as a wedding gift. We got a toaster, I married Craig when I was 23. He was a good man, hardworking and honest, with calloused hands and a kind heart. But he was not a lawyer or a doctor or a businessman. He built things with his hands. He came home covered in sawdust and drywall dust. My mother never forgave me for that choice. In her eyes, I had married beneath myself and deserved whatever struggles came from it. I'm not going to that party, I said quietly. I don't care what she threatens. I'm staying right here with Tyler. Craig reached over and took my hand. Good. That's exactly where you belong. A nurse came in to check Tyler's vitals. She was young, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes and gentle hands. She adjusted the IV drip and made notes on her tablet. His numbers are improving, she said with an encouraging smile. Not dramatically, but it's a good sign. Keep talking to him. He can hear you, even if he can't respond yet. After she left, I moved closer to Tyler's bed and took his small hand in mine. It felt so fragile, like holding a baby bird. I whispered to him, telling him how much I loved him, how proud I was of him, how he needed to fight and come back to us. Craig stood behind me, his hand on my shoulder. Then, like a miracle, Tyler's eyes fluttered open. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then his eyes opened wider, unfocused and confused, searching the room. Mom? His voice was barely a whisper. Dry and weak, I burst into tears, gripping his hand tighter. Baby, I'm here. I'm right here. You're safe. You're going to be okay. Craig moved to the other side of the bed, his own eyes wet. Hey, buddy, you gave us quite a scare. Tyler's face crumpled, and tears started rolling down his cheeks. He looked so small and broken in that hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. Mom, I got hurt because Grandma. My heart stopped. What, sweetheart? What about Grandma? She was on the phone, Tyler said, his voice shaking. Planning Aunt Amanda's party. I asked her for a snack because I was hungry. She got annoyed. She told me to go get it myself from the basement freezer. She said she was busy and couldn't be interrupted. I felt Craig's hand tighten on my shoulder. Tyler continued, the words tumbling out between sobs. The light was off. I told her I couldn't see. She said to just feel my way down and stop being a baby. I tried, Mom. I tried to be careful. But I couldn't see anything. I missed a step and fell. I remember hitting my head really hard. Everything went fuzzy. Oh, baby, I whispered, my own tears falling faster. I was crying so loud because it hurt so much. But Grandma didn't come. I kept calling for her, but she didn't come check on me. I don't know how long I was down there. It felt like forever. When she finally came down, she had her phone in her hand. She was still talking to someone about flowers or something. She looked at me and seemed mad that I was making so much noise. She told me to stop being dramatic. Craig made a sound like a wounded animal. I wanted to scream. I wanted to put my fist through a wall. Instead, I held my son and let him talk. I told her I couldn't move and my chest hurt. She finally hung up the phone and helped me upstairs, but she kept saying I was fine and to stop crying. She made me sit on the couch while she went back to making phone calls. I must have fallen asleep or passed out or something. I don't remember anything else until I woke up here. The truth crashed over me like a tidal wave. This was not an accident. This was neglect. This was my mother prioritizing a birthday party over the safety of her grandson. She had sent an 8-year-old child into a dark basement with steep concrete stairs because she could not be bothered to pause her party planning. And when he fell, when he was hurt and scared and crying, she left him there because his pain was an inconvenience to her. I sat frozen, Tyler's words echoing in my mind. Craig's face had gone red, a vein pulsing in his temple. I had seen him angry before, but never like this. This was a rage that ran bone deep. That woman nearly killed our son because she was too busy planning a party. His voice was low and dangerous. She sent him into a dark basement alone down those concrete stairs. Kendall, you know how steep those stairs are. You know how dangerous they are. No child should go down there without supervision, let alone in complete darkness. I knew. I had been terrified of those stairs as a child myself. They were almost vertical, with narrow treads and no handrail. My father had always meant to renovate that basement, make it safer, but he never got around to it. And my mother had sent Tyler down there alone, in the dark, because answering his request for a snack would have interrupted her phone call. Tyler had fallen back asleep, exhausted from the effort of telling his story. I tucked his blanket around him gently and kissed his forehead. Then I stepped out into the hallway with Craig. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was not fear. It was fury. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my recent calls until I found my mother's number. I had deleted it, but it was still in my call history. I pressed it before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the third ring. "Kendall, I hoped you'd come to your senses and call back." "Tyler just woke up," I said, my voice cold and steady. "He told me what happened." There was a pause. Then, "I don't know what you mean." "He told me you sent him to the basement alone to get a snack from the freezer. He told me the light was out and he couldn't see. He told me he fell because of that, and that you didn't check on him for a long time because you were too busy on the phone planning Amanda's party." Another pause. Longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had taken on that defensive tone I knew so well. "He's being dramatic. Children fall all the time. It was an accident. He's fine now, isn't he?" "Fine?" I could not believe what I was hearing. "Mom, he has a severe concussion. He has fractured ribs. He had internal bleeding. He needed emergency surgery. He's been unconscious for 36 hours. That's not fine." "You're exaggerating. Children are resilient. He'll bounce back. You sent an 8-year-old child into a dark basement with steep concrete stairs because you couldn't be bothered to pause your phone conversation. You didn't check on him when he was hurt and crying. That's not an accident. That's negligence." Her voice turned sharp. "How dare you accuse me of negligence? I was watching him as a favor to you. If you had been home instead of working all those hours, none of this would have happened." The blame shifting was so typical, so predictable, that I almost laughed. Almost. This isn't about me working. This is about you prioritizing party planning over the safety of a child in your care. "I did nothing wrong," she snapped. "Tyler is making up stories or misremembering because of his head injury. You're putting words in his mouth because you've always been jealous of Amanda and want to ruin her special day. Are you serious right now? My son is in the ICU, and you think this is about jealousy over a birthday party? I think you're an ungrateful daughter who has always resented your sister's success and happiness. I think you're using this accident to paint me as a villain and turn Tyler against me. I think you need to stop spreading these lies immediately." My hand tightened around the phone. Craig was watching me, his jaw clenched. "They're not lies. They're the truth. And you know it. If you continue to spread these accusations," my mother said, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper, "there will be consequences. Your father left a substantial inheritance. I control it. If you want to see a single penny of that money, you will stop this right now. You'll come to Amanda's party tomorrow. You'll apologize for this behavior. And we'll never speak of it again." "I'm not coming to that party. I'm staying with my son." "Then you're making a choice. A very stupid choice. That inheritance could pay for Tyler's medical bills, could give you financial security. But if you insist on being stubborn and disrespectful, I'll make sure you never see a dime. I'll make sure Amanda gets everything. And I'll tell everyone in this family exactly what kind of person you are. An ungrateful, lying daughter who tried to blame her own mother for her son's accident." I hung up. My whole body was shaking. Craig pulled me into his arms and I stood there, trying to breathe, trying to process what had just happened. "She's going to turn everyone against you," Craig said quietly. "You know that, right? She'll control the narrative. She'll make you look like the bad guy." I knew exactly how my mother operated. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing with texts. "Aunt Linda. Kendall. I just spoke with your mother. How could you accuse her of hurting Tyler? She's devastated. This is so unlike you. Uncle Robert. Your mom is crying. She's just trying to throw your sister a nice birthday party. And you're making horrible accusations. Very disappointed in you, Cousin Stephanie. This is a new low, even for you." Using your son's accident to get attention and make yourself the victim. Your mom loves Tyler. She would never hurt him. The messages kept coming, one after another. Family members I had not heard from in months suddenly had strong opinions about my character and my accusations. None of them asked for Tyler's side of the story. None of them asked how he was doing. They all accepted my mother's version of events without question. I turned my phone off and went back into Tyler's room. The nurse had been right. His color was better. His breathing was steadier. But looking at him lying there, so small and vulnerable, I felt a rage I had never experienced before. My mother had hurt him through her carelessness and selfishness, and now she was trying to make me the villain for daring to tell the truth. Craig sat beside me, and we kept vigil through the night. Neither of us slept. We just watched Tyler breathe and held each other's hands. The next day arrived, Amanda's birthday. I had not slept more than 20 minutes at a time, dozing in the chair beside Tyler's bed before jerking awake in panic. Each time I checked his monitors, touched his hand, made sure he was still breathing steadily. Craig had finally gone home around dawn to shower and check on things. We had a neighbor feeding our dog. Normally fed like a foreign concept. Tyler was awake but groggy. The doctor said that was normal after the trauma his body had endured. He was in pain despite the medications dripping through his IV. Every breath hurt his fractured ribs. He could not sit up without assistance. The doctor had explained that morning that Tyler would need surgery in 2 days to repair some internal damage they had discovered. The bleeding had stopped, but there was tearing in his intestinal tissue that needed to be addressed before it could become a bigger problem. Around 10 in the morning, a woman from the hospital billing department knocked softly and entered with an apologetic smile. She was middle-aged, wearing a tired expression that suggested she hated this part of her job. "Mrs. Walker, I'm sorry to intrude during such a difficult time. I need to go over some financial information with you regarding Tyler's care." I nodded, bracing myself. Craig and I had decent insurance through his construction company, but we knew hospital stays were expensive. We just did not know how expensive yet. She opened her tablet and pulled up numbers that made my stomach drop. Tyler's care so far, including the emergency surgery, the ICU stay, medications, and monitoring, comes to approximately $42,000. The surgery scheduled for 2 days from now is estimated at another $33,000. Your insurance will cover approximately 60% of these costs. Your out-of-pocket responsibility will be around $30,000. $30,000. The number hung in the air like a guillotine. We did not have $30,000. We had maybe $3,000 in savings. We lived paycheck to paycheck like most American families, doing our best to get by. "We can set up a payment plan," the billing woman continued gently. "The hospital works with families. You won't be required to pay it all at once. But we will need to establish a plan before Tyler is discharged." After she left, I sat staring at the wall. $30,000. The inheritance my mother controlled was worth roughly $200,000. Money my father had worked his whole life to save and invest. Money he had wanted to leave to his children and grandchildren. Money that could solve this crisis instantly. But to get it, I would have to apologize. I would have to pretend my mother did nothing wrong. I would have to let her rewrite history and gaslight my son into believing his memory was false. I could not do it. I would not do it. Around noon there was a knock on the door. I expected another nurse or doctor. Instead, Amanda walked in. My sister looked perfect, as always. Her hair was professionally styled in loose waves. Her makeup was flawless. She wore an expensive dress, designer heels, and jewelry that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. She was 35, 3 years older than me, and she had always looked like she stepped out of a catalog. "Kendall," she said, her voice cool. "How is Tyler?" "He's stable. Surgery in 2 days." She glanced at Tyler, who was sleeping again. Then back at me. "Mom is crying at home. You ruined my birthday." I stared at her. "Your nephew is in the ICU. He almost died. And you're worried about your birthday party?" "My birthday party that Mom spent months planning. My birthday party that cost a fortune. My birthday party that is supposed to be happening right now, except half the guests left early because Mom was too upset to enjoy it. Yes, Kendall, I'm worried about my birthday. Amanda, did you hear what happened? Did Mom tell you what Tyler said? I heard your version. I heard you're accusing Mom of neglecting Tyler. That's insane. Mom would never do that. Tyler said she sent him into the dark basement alone. He said she didn't check on him after he fell because she was too busy on her phone. He said she seemed annoyed when she finally did come down. Amanda crossed her arms. Tyler is 8 years old. He probably misunderstood what happened. He has a head injury. His memory is obviously confused. You're taking the confused recollections of an injured child and using them to attack Mom. His story has been completely consistent. The doctors said his mental clarity is good. He's not confused, Amanda. He's telling the truth. So you believe an 8-year-old over your own mother? Amanda's voice rose. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You've always been jealous of my relationship with Mom. You've always resented that she and I are close and you're not. Now you're using this accident to drive a wedge between us and make yourself the victim. I could not believe what I was hearing. You think I want my son in the ICU? You think I wanted this to happen so I could have some kind of victimhood status? I think you see an opportunity to blame Mom for something that was a simple accident, and you're taking it, and in the process, you're destroying our family. Our family was already destroyed, Amanda. You just couldn't see it because you were always the favorite. She flinched, but recovered quickly. That's not true, and you know it. Mom loves both of us. Mom loves you. She tolerates me. There's a difference. Amanda sighed dramatically. I didn't come here to argue. I came to deliver a message. Mom wants you to know that if you keep telling people she's responsible for Tyler's fall, she's cutting you out of Dad's inheritance completely. That's $200,000, Kendall. $200,000 that could pay for Tyler's medical bills, could give you and Craig financial security, could change your lives. Don't be stupid. Don't throw that away out of stubbornness. So you know about the threat. You support it. I support protecting our mother from false accusations. Yes, they're not false. Amanda's expression hardened. Sign a statement saying you were wrong. Apologize to Mom. Come to family dinners and act like a normal, grateful daughter. Or lose everything. Your choice. Did you come to see Tyler at all? Or just to deliver threats? I came to see my nephew and talk some sense into my sister. But I see that's pointless. She walked toward the door, then turned back. Talk to Tyler. Ask him if he's really sure about what he remembers. Kids get confused. Maybe if you ask him the right way, he'll realize he was mistaken. You want me to manipulate my injured son into changing his story to protect Mom? I want you to consider that an 8-year-old's memory after severe head trauma might not be reliable. That's all. She opened the door. You have 48 hours to sign the statement. After that, the lawyers get involved. Mom's serious about this, Kendall. Don't test her. After Amanda left, I sat in stunned silence. Even my own sister believed I was lying. Even she chose my mother over the truth. I felt completely alone. That evening, Craig's mother, Margaret, called. I almost did not answer, but Craig insisted his parents deserved to know what was happening. I put the call on speaker. Kendall, honey, Craig told us about Tyler. We're so sorry. Margaret's voice was warm and concerned. But we also got a call from your mother. My heart sank. She called you? She wanted to explain her side of things. She sounded very upset. She said Tyler's fall was a tragic accident, and that you're blaming her because you're stressed and not thinking clearly. She said she's worried about you. Margaret, that's not what happened. I'm sure it's all very complicated, sweetheart. But Craig's father and I think maybe you and Craig need to focus on Tyler's recovery right now instead of getting into family conflicts. Your mother does seem genuinely concerned about Tyler. Maybe everyone's emotions are just running high and things are getting blown out of proportion. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Even Craig's parents, who had always been kind to me, were doubting me now. My mother had gotten to them, too. We just think it might be wise to put this aside for now, Margaret continued. Starting a family war while Tyler needs you isn't good for anyone. Maybe after he's better, you and your mother can sit down and work through this calmly. After the call ended, Craig looked at me with anguish in his eyes. I'm sorry. I thought they'd take your side. Your mother has always been good at this, I said quietly. She knows exactly how to present herself as the victim. She's been doing it my whole life. Surgery day arrived with a gray, rainy dawn. Tyler had been terrified when the doctors explained what would happen. He was only 8. The concept of being put to sleep and having doctors cut into him was nightmare fuel. I held him while he cried, promising I would be right there when he woke up. They came for him at 7 in the morning. Craig and I walked beside the gurney as far as we were allowed, then watched as they wheeled our son through double doors that we could not pass. The surgery would take approximately 4 hours. 4 hours of not knowing, of waiting, of praying. The surgical waiting room was designed to be comforting, but it felt sterile and cold. Plastic chairs bolted to the floor, a television playing morning news that no one was watching, a coffee maker in the corner with weak, bitter coffee. Craig and I sat holding hands, not speaking. There were no words for this kind of fear. 2 hours into the wait, my phone buzzed. An email. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. It was from a law office I did not recognize. The subject line read, "Legal notice regarding defamation claims." My hands started shaking as I opened it. The letter was formal and threatening. It stated that Patricia Chen, attorney at law, was representing my mother in a defamation case against me. It detailed how I had made false and damaging statements about my mother's character, specifically accusing her of child negligence and endangerment. It demanded I sign an attached statement recanting my accusations and admitting I had been mistaken. If I did not sign and return the statement within 48 hours, formal legal proceedings would begin, including a lawsuit seeking $50,000 in damages for emotional distress and reputational harm. Additionally, the letter informed me that I was being formally removed from my father's will and would receive no portion of the inheritance. I handed the phone to Craig. I watched his face go white as he read, "She's threatening to sue you while Tyler is in surgery, while our son is on an operating table. What kind of person does that?" "My mother does that," I said quietly. "This is who she is. We could not afford a lawyer. We could barely afford Tyler's medical bills." The idea of also fighting a legal battle was crushing. The inheritance money, which had always been a distant, theoretical thing, suddenly felt like a noose around my neck. My mother knew exactly what she was doing. She was backing me into a corner, forcing me to choose between truth and financial survival. I was still staring at my phone, reading the legal letter over and over, when it rang. Unknown number. I almost declined, but answered at the last second. "Hello? Is this Kendall Walker?" A woman's voice, hesitant and nervous. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Diane Murphy. I'm a neighbor of your mother's. I know this is going to sound strange, but I need to tell you something about the day your son got hurt." My heart started racing. "What about it?" "I was at your mother's house that afternoon. She had asked me to drop off some serving dishes she'd lent me. I rang the doorbell, but she didn't answer right away. So I walked around to the back door. That's when I heard screaming. A child screaming. It was coming from inside the house, from the basement, I think. I gripped the phone harder. "What did you hear?" The screaming went on for a while. I almost called 911, but then it stopped. I knocked on the back door and your mother answered. I asked if everything was okay, if someone was hurt. She said it was nothing, just her grandson being dramatic. But I could tell something was wrong. She looked flustered and annoyed, not worried. That struck me as odd. "Did you see Tyler?" "No." She said he was fine and practically shut the door in my face. But the screaming I heard, it sounded like real pain, real fear. A few minutes later, I saw through the kitchen window that she was on her phone, pacing and talking. She didn't look like someone dealing with a medical emergency. She looked like someone having a normal conversation. "How long would you say the screaming lasted before she checked on him?" Diane hesitated. "At least 5 minutes, maybe closer to 10. It's hard to say exactly. But it was long enough that I almost called for help myself." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because your mother came to my house yesterday. She asked me not to talk to anyone about that day. She said Tyler's fall was an accident and people were trying to blame her unfairly. She said if anyone asked me about it, I should say I didn't hear or see anything unusual." The way she said it, it felt like a threat. and I couldn't stop thinking about that little boy screaming. I have grandchildren. If something like this happened to one of them, I would want someone to speak up. Hope flared in my chest. Would you be willing to give an official statement? To talk to the hospital or authorities? Another hesitation. I don't want to get in the middle of a family dispute. Your mother is well connected in the neighborhood. She could make things difficult for me. But I needed you to know what I heard. I needed someone to know the truth. Diane, please. You might be the only person who can corroborate Tyler's story. I'm sorry. I have to go. She hung up. I sat there holding my dead phone. A witness who could prove my mother's negligence but was too afraid to come forward. I understood. My mother was intimidating. She had money and connections. She knew how to make people uncomfortable. But at least now I knew Tyler was telling the truth. At least I had heard it from an outside source. The screaming went on for close to 10 minutes before my mother bothered to check on him. 10 minutes of a child in agony while she finished her phone conversation. Craig and I sat in heavy silence. 3 hours passed. Then 4. Finally, a surgeon in blue scrubs came through the doors, pulling down his mask. We jumped to our feet. The surgery went well, he said, and I nearly collapsed with relief. We repaired the intestinal damage. Tyler will need time to heal, but he should make a full recovery. You can see him in about an hour once he's in the recovery room. We thanked him over and over. Craig hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. Our son was going to be okay. Tyler came through recovery slowly and painfully. The surgery had been successful, but now his body had 2 trauma sites to heal from. The original fall and the surgical repairs. He would need at least 6 weeks of recovery time. Physical therapy would be necessary to rebuild his strength. The doctors warned us about possible long-term complications, including digestive issues and chronic pain from the internal scarring, more medical bills, more time off work for both of us, more financial pressure mounting like a weight on our chests. But Tyler was alive. That was what mattered. 2 days after surgery, as I sat beside Tyler's bed reading him a story about dragons, he interrupted me. Mom, can Grandma come visit? My heart broke. Despite everything, he still loved her. Children have such capacity for forgiveness, such pure hearts. Grandma is busy right now, sweetheart. Is she mad at me? Did I get her in trouble for telling you what happened? I set the book down and took his hand. Baby, you did nothing wrong. Nothing that happened was your fault. You didn't get anyone in trouble. You told the truth. And telling the truth is always the right thing to do. But Grandma said I was being dramatic. Maybe I was. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I remember. I saw what was happening. My mother had planted seeds of doubt in Tyler's mind even before he fell. She had told him he was dramatic, that he was exaggerating, that his pain was not real. Now he was questioning his own memory, his own experience. This was exactly what she wanted. Tyler, what happened to you was very real and very serious. You got hurt badly. The doctors had to do surgery to fix the damage. That's not dramatic. That's not exaggerated. That's real. He nodded. But I could see the confusion in his eyes. He wanted to believe his grandmother loved him. He wanted to believe she would never hurt him. The cognitive dissonance was too much for an 8-year-old to process. That evening, my mother showed up. I was in the hallway talking to Tyler's physical therapist when I saw her walking toward us, carrying a massive bouquet of flowers and a teddy bear the size of a small child. She was dressed impeccably, her hair perfect, her makeup subtle. She looked like a concerned grandmother from a greeting card. Kendall, she said warmly, as if we had not spoken since before the accident, how is my grandson? The physical therapist excused herself. My mother watched her go, then turned back to me with a smile that did not reach her eyes. What are you doing here? I asked. Visiting my grandson, of course. I've been so worried. She started toward Tyler's room. I stepped in front of her. You need to leave. Don't be ridiculous. I have every right to see Tyler. You have no rights. You nearly killed him. She lowered her voice, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. You need to stop saying that. Sign the statement, Kendall. Drop this crusade. Tyler is going to be fine. He's recovering. Let's just move forward and put this unpleasantness behind us. Unpleasantness? You sent my son into a dark basement. You ignored him when he was hurt. You still haven't apologized or admitted any wrongdoing, because there was no wrongdoing. It was an accident. Children fall. That's life. You're blowing this completely out of proportion because you've always been overly dramatic and emotional. Just like when you were a child. I want you to leave. Now, I'm going to see my grandson. She pushed past me and walked into Tyler's room before I could stop her. By the time I got inside, she was already at his bedside, her voice dripping with sugary sweetness. Oh, my poor baby. Look at you. Grandma has been so worried. How are you feeling? Tyler looked small and uncertain. Hi, Grandma. I'm okay. Of course you are. You're such a strong, brave boy. She set the flowers on the side table and placed the teddy bear next to Tyler. I brought you Mr. Snuggles. I remember you said you liked teddy bears. Thank you, Tyler said quietly. My mother sat on the edge of his bed, taking his hand. Tyler, sweetheart, Grandma needs to ask you something. When you fell at my house, you remember it was dark in the basement, right? Tyler nodded. And you know Grandma would never, ever let you go somewhere dangerous on purpose, right? The light bulb must have burned out, and I didn't know. It was an accident that the basement was dark. You understand that, don't you? I saw what she was doing. She was rewriting history right in front of me, planting suggestions in Tyler's mind, making him question what he remembered. Mom, stop it. She ignored me. And when you fell, Grandma came to check on you as soon as she heard you, didn't she? Grandma would never leave you hurt and crying. That wouldn't make any sense, would it? Tyler looked confused. But you were on the phone. I was, yes. I was talking to Aunt Amanda. But as soon as I heard you fall, I hung up and came right down. You remember that, don't you? Everything happened so fast. Sometimes, when we're scared and hurt, our memory gets mixed up. I guess, Tyler said uncertainly. Of course it does. And you know Grandma loves you very, very much, don't you? Yes, Grandma. She smiled, patting his hand. That's my good boy. Now, you rest and get better. Grandma will visit again soon. Before I could say anything, there was a knock on the door. A woman in business casual attire entered, holding a clipboard. Mrs. Walker? I'm Jennifer Torres from the hospital social services department. Could I speak with you for a moment? My mother's face went pale. She stood quickly. I should go. Let you handle hospital business. Feel better, Tyler. She squeezed his hand and walked past me without making eye contact. Jennifer waited until my mother was gone, then closed the door. Mrs. Walker, I want you to know that the hospital has a policy regarding potential child welfare concerns. When there are injuries that might involve neglect or unsafe conditions, we're required to investigate. A nurse filed a report based on conversations she overheard regarding the circumstances of Tyler's accident. My stomach dropped. A social services investigation? It's standard procedure. I'll need to interview you, Tyler, and anyone who was present when the injury occurred. This is to ensure Tyler's safety and well-being. It's not meant to be punitive, just precautionary. My mother was the one who was watching him when he fell. I understand. I'll need to interview her as well. Jennifer's expression was kind but professional. I know this might feel invasive or scary, but please understand, we're here to protect children. If the injury truly was an accidental fall with no negligence, the investigation will show that. After she left, I sat heavily in the chair beside Tyler's bed. On one hand, an official investigation meant the truth might come out. Professionals would be looking into what happened. My mother could not charm or manipulate her way out of a formal inquiry. On the other hand, I was terrified. What if they blamed me for leaving Tyler with her? What if they decided I should have known better? What if this somehow ended up threatening my custody? Craig arrived an hour later. I told him everything that had happened. We held each other while Tyler slept, both of us scared and exhausted and running on fumes. The investigation began the next day. Jennifer Torres interviewed me first, asking detailed questions about Tyler's injury, my relationship with my mother, the family dynamics. I told her everything honestly. I explained my mother's pattern of prioritizing appearances and social obligations over actual caregiving. I described the basement stairs, the broken light, Tyler's account of what happened. Jennifer took notes without showing any reaction. And you believe your mother was negligent in her supervision of Tyler? I believe she sent an 8-year-old into a dangerous area alone because she did not want to interrupt her phone call. I believe she failed to check on him promptly when he was injured. Yes, I consider that negligent. Next, they interviewed Tyler. I was not allowed in the room, which made me anxious. What if he was scared? What if my mother's suggestions had already confused him? But when Jennifer came out, she looked thoughtful. Tyler's account is very consistent, she said. He's clear about the sequence of events. However, as with any child witness, there are considerations about reliability and suggestibility. They interviewed my mother separately. I was not privy to what she said, but I could imagine. She would be charming and concerned. She would paint herself as a devoted grandmother, devastated by false accusations. She would have explanations for everything. 2 days later, Jennifer came to give me the preliminary findings. The investigation found some concerns, but not enough evidence to file formal charges of neglect. Tyler's story is consistent, but your mother maintains it was an accident and that she responded appropriately. Without additional witnesses or evidence, it becomes difficult to determine exactly what happened. I felt deflated. So nothing happens? I didn't say that. The report will note concerns about supervision and safety. It will recommend that Tyler not be left in your mother's care unsupervised in the future. If there are any future incidents, this report will be part of the history. But as far as legal charges or Child Protective Services involvement, there's not sufficient evidence to proceed. It was a partial victory. The hospital was taking it seriously enough to document concerns, but it was not justice. It was not accountability. Then came the next blow. My mother's lawyer sent an updated letter. Since I had not signed the recanting statement, they were moving forward with the defamation lawsuit. They were seeking $50,000 in damages. The letter detailed how my accusations had damaged my mother's reputation in the community, caused her emotional distress, and harmed her relationships. Additionally, I received formal documentation that I had been removed from my father's will. The entire inheritance would go to Amanda. $200,000 that could have saved us financially. Gone. Craig's construction company reduced his hours due to a slowdown in new projects. The economy was tightening, and contractors were the first to feel it. His paychecks were suddenly 30% smaller. We were drowning. The hospital needed our payment plans signed. We were looking at monthly payments of $500 for the next 5 years, just to cover Tyler's medical costs. On top of our mortgage, car payments, student loans for my physician assistant training, and regular living expenses, we were going under. I had to return to work at the clinic while Tyler was still in the hospital. Craig stayed with him during my shifts. We traded off, barely seeing each other, both of us exhausted and stressed. At work, I tried to focus on patients, but my mind kept drifting. How were we going to survive this? One evening while I was at the hospital sitting with Tyler, I received a Facebook message from someone I did not know. Her name was Julia Brennan. Kendall, I don't know if you remember me. I used to work as your mother's housekeeper about 3 years ago. I quit after 6 months. I saw on the neighborhood gossip page that there was a social services visit about an incident with Tyler at your mother's house. I need to talk to you. There were other incidents. Please call me. She included her phone number. My hands trembled as I read it. Other incidents? I stepped into the hallway and called her immediately. Julia answered on the second ring. Kendall? Yes. You said there were other incidents? Julia took a deep breath. I worked for your mother for 6 months. I cleaned her house twice a week. During that time, I witnessed multiple situations where children were put at risk because your mother was distracted or prioritizing other things. Nothing as serious as what happened to Tyler, but concerning nonetheless. Can you give me examples? There was one time when your sister Amanda dropped off her daughter, your niece Emma, for your mother to watch. Emma was maybe 4 years old at the time. Your mother was hosting a garden club meeting. She told Emma to play outside in the backyard while the meeting happened inside. It was over 90 degrees that day. I went out to check on Emma after about an hour and found her red-faced and crying from heat exhaustion. She had been out there unsupervised in the sun with no water. Your mother seemed annoyed when I brought Emma inside and gave her water. I felt sick. What else? Another time, There was a family gathering. Several children were there, including young cousins. Your mother was busy playing hostess. One of the children, maybe 6 years old, wandered into the garage where your mother kept cleaning chemicals on a low shelf. I found the child about to open a bottle of bleach. When I told your mother she needed to child-proof the garage, she waved me off and said children need to learn not to touch things. Did you report any of this? No. I'm ashamed to say I didn't. I needed the job. Your mother paid well. And honestly, she made it clear that if I caused any problems or complained, she would ruin my reputation in the area. She knows everyone. She has connections. I couldn't afford to be blacklisted from the neighborhood cleaning jobs. Why are you telling me now? Julia's voice broke slightly. Because I quit over something similar. Your mother was watching a neighbor's child. A boy about 7. She left him alone in the house while she ran to the store to get something she had forgotten for a dinner party. She was gone for over 30 minutes. The boy was terrified. When I found out, I told her that was unacceptable. She fired me on the spot and told other families in the neighborhood I was unreliable and had stolen from her. It took me months to rebuild my client base. Would you be willing to testify to these incidents? To give a formal statement? Silence. Then, if it would help Tyler? If it would prevent other children from being put at risk? Yes. I'll do it. I've carried the guilt of staying silent for too long. I can't do it anymore. I almost cried with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. After hanging up, I sat in the hallway and let myself have 5 minutes to just breathe. This was the break I needed. Julia had witnessed a pattern of behavior, multiple incidents of my mother, prioritizing social obligations over child safety. This was not just one accident. This was who my mother was. I called Craig and told him everything. For the first time in weeks, I heard hope in his voice. This changes things. This shows a pattern. We can fight back. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer named Patricia Hensley. I had found her through an online search for family law attorneys who specialized in neglect cases. Her website mentioned she worked on contingency for certain cases, meaning she would not get paid unless we won. I told her everything. Tyler's fall, my mother's threats, the inheritance manipulation, the defamation lawsuit, the social services investigation, Diane's phone call, and now Julia's testimony. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Your mother is using financial abuse and legal intimidation to silence you. That's textbook manipulation. And the pattern of neglect Julia described is crucial. We can build a case." For what? The hospital investigation didn't find enough evidence for charges. We're not pursuing criminal charges. We're pursuing a civil case for Tyler's medical expenses and emotional damages. We're also filing for a restraining order to prevent your mother from having unsupervised contact with Tyler. And we're going to fight the defamation suit by proving that your statements were true. I can't afford a lawyer. Patricia smiled. I'm going to take your case on contingency. I'll get paid when we win, and we will win. I've seen cases like this before. I grew up with a mother who used money to control everyone around her. I became a lawyer specifically to help people escape these situations. Let me help you. I wanted to cry. Finally, someone believed me. Finally, someone was willing to fight. Over the next few weeks, Patricia worked quickly. She interviewed Julia in detail and recorded her testimony. She tried to reach Diane again, and this time, after learning about Julia's willingness to come forward, Diane agreed to give a statement as well. 2 witnesses who could establish a pattern of neglectful behavior. Patricia also obtained Tyler's medical records, which showed the extent of his injuries and supported his account of a serious fall down concrete stairs. She got copies of the text messages from my family members, showing my mother's smear campaign. She documented the threatening letters from my mother's lawyer. Meanwhile, my mother and Amanda pushed forward with their defamation suit. They had their own lawyers, paid for by the inheritance money. The court date was set for 2 months away. The extended family remained divided. Most sided with my mother. She was, after all, charming and well-liked. She hosted beautiful parties. She donated to charities. She seemed like a pillar of the community. I was painted as the unstable daughter having a breakdown, but a few family members started to question the narrative. My Uncle Robert called me one evening. "Kendall, I've been thinking about everything that's happened. Your mother has always been controlling. I never wanted to see it, but she uses money and guilt to manipulate people. I'm starting to wonder if you're telling the truth about what happened to Tyler. It was not much, but it was something." A small crack in my mother's carefully constructed facade. Tyler continued to heal. He was discharged from the hospital after 3 weeks. He came home with a list of restrictions and physical therapy appointments. He could not run or play roughly. He tired easily, but he was alive, and he was home. And that was everything. He asked about his grandmother several times. Each time, it broke my heart a little more. "Grandma can't visit right now," I would tell him. "But that's not because of anything you did. Grown-ups sometimes have disagreements. Does she still love me? I'm sure she does, baby." The truth was more complicated. I did not know if my mother was capable of love in the way most people understood it. She loved the idea of being a grandmother, the social status it gave her, but love that required sacrifice, inconvenience, or putting someone else's needs first? I had never seen evidence of that. The court hearing finally arrived. We walked into the courtroom with Patricia by our side. My mother and Amanda sat on the other side with their lawyer, a severe-looking man in an expensive suit. The judge was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to both sides present their opening arguments. My mother's lawyer painted me as a vengeful daughter who was using her son's accident to extract money and attention. He claimed I had always been jealous of my sister and mother's relationship, and that this was my attempt to destroy their family bond. Patricia countered with medical evidence, witness testimony, and a timeline of events that painted a very different picture. She called Diane to the stand first. Diane, nervous but determined, testified that she heard Tyler screaming for nearly 10 minutes before my mother checked on him. She described my mother's annoyed demeanor, her lack of urgency, and her request for Diane to stay silent about what she had witnessed. Next, Julia testified. She described the pattern of behavior she had witnessed. Children left unsupervised, dangerous conditions ignored, safety concerns dismissed. She provided specific dates and incidents. She explained how my mother had threatened and blacklisted her when she tried to speak up. Then Patricia presented Tyler's medical records. She walked the judge through his injuries: severe concussion, fractured ribs, internal organ damage, the need for surgery. She presented photos of my mother's basement stairs, showing how steep and dangerous they were, especially in the dark. Finally, she presented the threatening letters from my mother's lawyer, the texts from family members orchestrating a smear campaign, and the inheritance-disinheritance documents. She argued that my mother was using financial control and legal intimidation to silence the truth. My mother took the stand. She was poised and tearful, playing the victim perfectly. She claimed she loved Tyler deeply and would never harm him. She said the light bulb in the basement must have burned out without her knowledge. She said she checked on Tyler as soon as she heard him fall. She said I was mentally unstable and making false accusations because I had always been jealous of Amanda. But under cross-examination, Patricia was relentless. She asked my mother why she did not call 911 immediately when Tyler fell down concrete stairs. My mother stammered that he seemed okay at first. Patricia asked why she sent an 8-year-old into a dark basement alone. My mother said she did not know it was dark. Patricia asked why multiple witnesses and her own grandson reported she was on the phone and slow to respond. My mother said they were all mistaken. The cracks started to show. Her story was not consistent. Her explanations did not make sense. The judge's expression grew increasingly skeptical. After 2 days of testimony, the judge made her ruling. She found in my favor. She stated that the preponderance of evidence showed my mother had been negligent in her supervision of Tyler. While the incident did not rise to the level of criminal charges, it was sufficient for civil liability. My mother was ordered to pay Tyler's medical expenses in full, $75,000. She was also ordered to cover court costs and legal fees. The defamation suit was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it could not be filed again. Most importantly, the judge granted a restraining order. My mother could not have any contact with Tyler without professional supervision. If she wanted to see her grandson, it would have to be in a controlled setting with a social worker present. My mother's face went white. Amanda looked stunned. Their lawyer gathered papers with tight, angry movements. As we left the courthouse, Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. You protected your son. That took tremendous courage. Over the following weeks, the news spread through the family. Some relatives apologized for doubting me. Others never spoke to me again. Committed to believing my mother's version despite the court ruling, I made peace with the loss of those relationships. I could not control what they believed. I could only control what I did. Amanda tried to reach out once, 3 months after the trial. She sent a text saying she wanted to talk, that maybe she had been wrong. I did not respond. She had chosen my mother over Tyler when he was fighting for his life. Some betrayals could not be forgiven. The payment from my mother allowed us to pay off all of Tyler's medical bills and still have money left over. We put it into a college fund for Tyler. It felt fitting that my mother's money would help pay for Tyler's future after she had nearly destroyed it. Uncle Robert and his wife maintained contact. They apologized for initially doubting me and made efforts to rebuild our relationship. I appreciated it, but kept boundaries in place. Trust, once broken, took a long time to repair. Craig got a promotion at work 6 months later. His company had been impressed by his dedication during Tyler's crisis. The extra income eased our financial stress significantly. His parents, who had initially doubted me, apologized and became incredibly supportive, helping with Tyler's care and proving themselves to be the grandparents he deserved. Tyler healed slowly but steadily. Physical therapy helped him rebuild his strength. The scars faded, both physical and emotional. He attended therapy to process the trauma of the accident and the confusing family conflict that followed. His therapist was wonderful, helping him understand that he had done nothing wrong and that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices that hurt children, but that does not mean the child is to blame. He stopped asking about his grandmother after a while. When he did mention her, it was with the distant curiosity of someone remembering a dream rather than the longing of a child missing a loved one. The supervised visits my mother was legally allowed never happened. She never requested them. Her pride would not allow her to submit to supervision and oversight. She would rather have no relationship with Tyler than one where her actions were monitored. I heard through the family grapevine that she sold her house. The medical payment, legal fees, and loss of reputation had damaged her finances and social standing. She moved to a smaller town a few hours away where no one knew her history. I felt a small, bitter satisfaction knowing she was facing consequences for once in her life. A year after the accident, Tyler was running again, playing soccer with friends, living the life of a normal 9-year-old boy. He had scars, both the ones you could see and the ones you could not, but he was resilient. Children have an incredible capacity to heal when they feel safe and loved. One evening, as I tucked him into bed, he looked up at me with serious eyes. "Mom, do you think Grandma ever thinks about me?" I smoothed his hair back from his forehead. "I think she probably does, honey. Does she miss me?" "I think in her own way, she might. I used to love going to her house. But then I remember the basement, and falling, and being scared. It's confusing. I know, baby. It's okay to have mixed feelings. It's okay to remember the good times, and also acknowledge the bad things that happened. People are complicated. You protected me," Tyler said. "Even when everyone was mad at you. Even when it was hard. You protected me." Tears burned behind my eyes. Always. That's what mothers do. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, Tyler. More than anything in the world." After he fell asleep, I sat on the couch with Craig. We were tired, as always, but it was a different kind of tired now. Not the desperate exhaustion of crisis, but the earned fatigue of people who had fought hard and survived. "Do you regret it?" Craig asked. "Fighting her? Losing the inheritance, the family relationships, all of it?" I thought about it honestly. No. I regret that it happened at all. I regret that my mother is who she is. But I don't regret standing up to her. I don't regret protecting Tyler. The money, the family connections, none of that matters if it comes at the cost of my son's safety and my own integrity. Craig kissed my forehead. "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us." Looking back, I realize I learned something crucial through that nightmare. I learned that family is not defined by blood alone. Family is defined by who shows up, who fights for you, who protects you when you are vulnerable. I lost my mother and sister, but I gained clarity about what really matters. I used to think family meant everything, that maintaining those relationships was worth almost any sacrifice. I believed that being a good daughter meant swallowing my pain and accepting whatever scraps of affection my mother offered. I thought that pointing out injustice made me ungrateful, that setting boundaries made me selfish. I was wrong. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes protection means standing alone. Sometimes the most important inheritance you can give your children is not money, but the example of someone who refused to compromise their truth. My mother never apologized. She never acknowledged what she did. She never took responsibility for nearly killing her grandson through her negligence and selfishness, and I stopped waiting for it. I stopped hoping she would suddenly become the mother I needed her to be. Tyler knows his worth now. He knows that when someone hurts you, even someone who is supposed to love you, it is not your fault. He knows that speaking truth matters more than keeping peace. He knows that real love looks like someone choosing your well-being over their own comfort. Those lessons are worth more than $200,000. They are worth more than any inheritance could ever be. We rebuilt our lives without my mother's money or approval. We struggled financially at times, but we managed. We created new traditions, new family bonds with people who genuinely cared about us. We learned to define success not by external validation or financial wealth, but by the strength of our relationships and the integrity of our choices. Tyler is thriving now. He is happy, healthy, and safe. That is the only thing that matters. Some nights, I still think about that phone call in the ICU. My mother's cold voice telling me to come set up a tent for my sister's birthday party, while my son lay unconscious. The moment I hung up and deleted her number was the moment I chose my child over her manipulation. It was the moment I broke a generational pattern of prioritizing appearances over truth. I am teaching Tyler something I never learned growing up, that his needs matter, that his voice deserves to be heard, that safety and love should never be conditional on silence or compliance. I am teaching him to recognize manipulation and have the courage to walk away from it, even when it is hard, even when it hurts. That is the real inheritance I am giving him. Not money, but strength. Not approval from toxic people, but the ability to recognize and protect his own worth. If you are going through something similar, if you are facing a situation where family is demanding your silence in exchange for acceptance, I want you to know that you are not alone. Speaking truth does not make you a bad person. Setting boundaries does not make you ungrateful. Protecting yourself and your children from harm, even when that harm comes from family, is not selfish. It is necessary. It is brave. It is love in its most essential form. The price of truth is often isolation and judgment, but the cost of silence is your soul. And no amount of money or family approval is worth that. Tyler is safe. We are free, and that is worth everything. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting someone you love? How did you find the courage to stand up for what was right, even when everyone around you said you were wrong? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else going through a similar situation feel less alone. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Sharing this video might help it reach someone who desperately needs to hear that standing up to family abuse is possible and necessary. Your support helps spread these important messages to people who need them most. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that wherever you are in your own journey, you find the strength to protect yourself and the people you love. You deserve safety. You deserve truth. You deserve peace. Be well, and remember, family should be a source of love, not pain. And if it is causing pain, you have every right to walk away.